This right here is the Sobremesa from Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. And look at me with the shifty eye thing. I should stop that right there. This is what we are smoking. And of course, decided today in the cornflower blue, the Flederman Von Riest, the Hanoverian. You can go to vonriest.com and use promo code CATS. Get your discount on an American-made, assembled in Indiana watch. And oh, they are so very, very pretty. I'm Tony Katz. The show is Tony Katz Today. No tariffs here. Let the show begin. Radio, let's go to work.
In a few moments, I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world. Reciprocal, that means they do it to us and we do it to them. Very simple. Can't get any simpler than that. This is one of the most important days, in my opinion, in American history. It's our declaration of economic independence. For years, hardworking American citizens were forced to sit on the sidelines as other nations got rich and powerful, much of it at our expense. But now it's our turn to prosper, and in so doing, use trillions and trillions of dollars to reduce our taxes and pay down our national debt, and it'll all happen very quickly. With today's action, we are finally going to be able to make America great again, greater than ever before.
Tariffs suck. Sorry. Maybe we haven't met. Tony Katz Today. Oh, I'm not pleased. But we're in the great game now. And I know exactly what I voted for. So let's start with this very strange mathematics that the left has come up with. That somehow, when it comes to President Trump, there is buyer's remorse. No. There is not. Though there could be a serious level of disagreement. We wanted a secure border. We've gotten it. We wanted a move to ensure the tax cuts remained. We're getting it. We wanted the opportunity to bring about a peace between Russia and Ukraine that maybe would cost us less money. And we wanted to ensure that Israel remains and the Ayatollah doesn't. Carrier groups moving in to the Mediterranean. We seem to be getting exactly that. When it came to the economy, we wanted the inflation to end. And we wanted the prosperity that was promised. That might take a little longer than we think. For a couple of reasons. It'll take longer than we think because the inflation was bad and the Biden administration lied every step of the way. On every subject, everywhere they lied. Inflation was transitory? Lie. The foundations, the bedrock of the economy is fine? Lie. The market's doing great. The market has 7 companies all involved somehow with AI doing great. Everything else was down. Trump said he would make it better. I don't even want to look at where the market is down right now, but I will. I'll do it for you. I'll do it for you. I'll take the look and the markets. I'm not looking anymore. I just put that. Nope. Yeah, well over 1,000 and has been in the pre-market and has been all morning. And who knows where it's going to end. The market is not necessarily the only sign of an economy, but we should be clear. I oppose tariffs as policy. I am okay with tariffs as tactic. What President Trump seemed to have put forth yesterday was not tactic. It was policy. Now, I know that I'm going to get pushback. And later on the radio show, I'll share with you a two-part conversation I had with Dr. Matt Will, where I provided the pushback to him, as would people who have chosen a side, right? You've got the Democrats who say anything Trump does is terrible, and you've got Magaville who says anything Trump does is great. And the truth is probably in the middle. The tariffs are in this situation, I think, are a terrible idea. Trump's philosophy is the tariffs will bring more countries to come in line with what we need in the U.S. I put forward to you, when I say come in line, help engage in less of trade deficits, help reduce tariffs of our products, make it easier to sell there, or bring jobs here to the United States. I argue that Trump, being who he is, sets up a situation where he can declare victory anytime he wants. Because the first rule of Trumpism is Trump wins, and the second rule of Trumpism is that a deal can always be made as long as it adheres to the first rule of Trumpism. So what is success? Well, whatever he says is the success, which should lead us to what is success. What is it that we're actually trying to get accomplished here? You feel other nations have taken advantage of us in trade. Well, that means you want to sell more of our goods there, or you want to sell less of their good here, because no American is better off because you're selling less of their good here, are they? Well, it means we would build more of our goods here. It doesn't mean we build goods in the same way. It doesn't mean that we're good at building every good. Tony, you're saying we can't build things in the United States? No, not at all. I'm saying we should build things in the United States, but maybe we don't have to build everything in the United States. Maybe we should be more targeted as opposed to more blanket. And what I saw yesterday in this list of tariffs is just blanketed insanity. No, I'm not a fan, boo-boo. I am not a fan at all. This right here is the list from Forbes of all of the tariffs. China, 34%, European Union, 20%, Vietnam, 46%, Taiwan, 32%, Japan, 24%. 24%? I thought we had a trade deal with them. These are big numbers. Trump will tell you that these numbers are actually kind numbers. He'll tell you that this was done in this way because not every country could handle the tariff that they put on us. So he's being nicer. Well, there's a whole thing to understand about how these tariffs are not reciprocal. Trump said reciprocal tariffs. These are not. I don't care what Scott Bessent says, the Treasury Secretary, nor anybody else. These are not reciprocal tariffs. They're not. The Canadians, unpleased.
We received confirmation that the latest reciprocal tariffs will not be imposed on Canada. At the same time, President Trump confirmed that the tariffs announced last week against our auto industry will come in, and indeed have come into effect today. So while it's progress that further tariffs were not imposed on Canada yesterday, the President's actions will reverberate here in Canada and across the world. Three different sets of U.S. tariffs remain in place and will continue to pose significant threats to Canadian workers and Canadian businesses. And while they have been imposed under different premises, some things are consistent. They are all unjustified, unwarranted, and in our judgment, misguided.
Great. That's not going to move him or anybody else. You calling the president misguided isn't going to change any single way someone in Magaville feels. Not at all. So the prime minister would be better off saying less on the subject at hand. I have no fear saying to you, I am not a fan at all of the tariffs. Not only am I not a fan, It turns out that Thomas Sowell is not a fan. And I listen to Thomas Sowell any chance I get. This was April 1st, 2025.
What do you make of the present President of the United States and his tariffs?
It's painful to see what a ruinous decision from back in the 1920s being repeated. Now, insofar as he's using these tariffs to get very strategic things settled, and that he is satisfied with that. But if you set off a worldwide trade war, that has a devastating history. Everybody loses because everybody follows suit, and all that happens is that you get a great reduction in international trade. The other, it's disturbing in another sense.
First things first, if you don't know the work of Thomas Sowell as an economist, as a social observer, you've missed out on some unbelievable commentary and some fantastic books, preferential policies being amongst them. Thomas Sowell is a world-class economist and a world-class mind. At the age of 91 is special. And if you want to say, well, he never built a company, Trump made more money up. With all due respect, we're not going to sit here and discount Thomas Sowell. That's not happening. That doesn't happen from the rational mind. That happens from the ideologue, and we're going to have no part of that. None. This is an assessment of the tariffs.
Franklin D. Roosevelt, when he was president in the 1930s, said that you have to try things, and if they don't work, then you admit it, you abandon that, and you go on to something else, and you try that until you come across something that does work. Now that's not a bad approach if you are operating within a known system of rules.
Mm.
But if you are the one who's making the rules, then all the other people have no idea what you're going to do next. And that is the formula for having people hang on to their money until they figure out what you're going to do.
He's making the argument that people will just hoard cash and you don't see investment. But what he said was, you have to try things. And I wasn't kidding when I said, well, we're in the great game now. I understand what Trump is trying to do. Where did I start? I said that this idea that there's buyer's remorse is laughable. The people who voted for Trump knew what they were doing. They bought their tickets. They knew what they were getting into. 77 million people. And I read just a quick blurb, talk about, I think, one of the more ignorant statements. Imagine voting for this when you could have just voted for a typical lib like Kamala Harris and limped along for 4 years. You thought she was a typical lib? That is the kind of thing that you write when you just can't say, I'm lying to you. There was nothing typical about that lib. Trump wants to try and reset an economic landscape. If shock and awe came in an economic form and actually shocked and awed, it would be this. This is big. And the market is reacting because the market wasn't expecting all of this. I don't think they were expecting this much. I don't think they were expecting this high. And then there's a whole conversation about whether or not we're actually talking about tariffs here. We're talking about trade deficits. Because it seems pretty clear that we're talking about trade deficits and not tariffs. And there's a whole economic conversation regarding Milton Friedman and others regarding deficit is fine. We spend more than they spend, but then they come back and invest in the United States because this is where the investment is. We get the money back. Isn't that a better deal? I get and I understand that I'm going to have people say to me, Tony, Trump's a genius and you don't get to say no and you have to let him do his thing. We're in it. I know what I voted for. I'm right here. But is this a good idea? No, it's a terrible idea. Is this all fine and hunky-dory? No, it's a mess. Can it work out? Oh, this is where it gets sensational. The first rule of Trumpism is Trump wins. The second rule of Trumpism is that a deal can always be made as long as it adheres to the first rule of Trumpism. And with that in mind, absolutely, it can all work out because Trump can just say it worked out. And then bye-bye tariff and relaxation comes. Oh, I think if you looked at your 401k today, you'd be unhappy. I think some people look at the market and say perfect time to invest. But don't think for a second that this day is going to bring any change of heart. It won't. If markets are still down a month from now and people are paying more for everything, well, that's a whole nother conversation. And we ain't there yet. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. Sorry, I wanted to readjust this, and I had to get up, and it would have been weird. So sorry. Hey, how you doing? Tony Katz, good to be with you. Who's angry with me aside from this nonsense fool named Mike? Now, I want you to read this. Small sacrifices now for bigger gains later implies Trump has a clue and is not an ignorant, impulsive, reckless moron, which he is. Tony Katz is smart enough to know this, but his paycheck does not allow him to publicly say it. Who is the only person on radio who has been saying that the Trump team should be having this conversation with America? You have to sacrifice now to get the better opportunity later. Who's the guy who said it? Mike, listen, I don't know. Maybe I'm just in a big anti-troll mood. I demand you be smarter. You got to be better at this. Now, I'm just going to block you so I don't have to deal with you again. And do me a favor. If you see me walking down the street, go to the other side of the street. I don't want to know your name, boo-boo. You don't listen. You don't think. Anybody who's been a part of this show knows I've said those exact words repeatedly. I'm on social media, on radio. Oh, gosh. Honestly, dude, I just think you're low. Bye, comment. I demand the people who are a part of this show be smarter. That means everybody else gets to stay. Seriously, Landon? No applause? Nothing? No, it's too late now. The people have heard you, Landon. No. The producer Landon, he hates you. His name was Mike, but his Hebrew name was Durr. Please, on behalf of the Jews, we're not claiming that dude. It's kind of nutty when people do that. And I absolutely get. Wait a second. No. That was by Mike. Is that Enric Teller? Are you kidding? Good to see you. My God, that is a blast and a pleasure. Yes, there's only sacrifice for tariffs. I'm totally there. And I get the people are going to yell at me about this. I'm willing to give Trump the chance. Willing to take the hit like anybody else. But, yeah, not a fan. Not so much. And it's weird. I think that there are definitely people on the political right who don't want to say that out loud. And I think, there are far more people on the political left who would never give Trump any credit for successes. And if you want to argue that this is the totality of everything people voted for with Trump, it's not. I figure if I'm in the column, I'm not getting what I want economically yet. I'm getting what I want border. I'm getting what I want Israel, and I'm getting what I want tax cuts. Right? I'm winning over here. But this is a big. I think that's people kind of absolutely knew what they voted for. 100%. I make it a point to when the silly one speaks, I make it a point to share what it is that she says. And of course, when I talk about the silly one, I'm talking about Jasmine Crockett. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Find everything I do over there at tonykatz.com. Let me get this for you. I do not know the context, meaning I have absolutely no idea what she was doing in this hearing, what the reason that she was speaking. No clue whatsoever. What I know is that she kind of interrupts somebody to make this point. And oh, what a point it is. And that's why, and I'm trying my best to bring this to you. Trust me when I say I'm trying to find it. We do a little thing here called Jasmine Crockett Masterpiece Theater. It is time once again to hear Jasmine Crockett, as only Jasmine Crockett can say Jasmine Crockett things. Here again, another rousing rendition of Jasmine Crockett Theater. Do I have to lower that now? I'll fade that right now. Here it is. Tell me what you think.
Say because you've been gracious, is this. When I first became a public defender, I had no criminal defense experience. And I walked in and I told my boss, Charlie, I said, listen, you should hire me. He said, why? I said, because I'm Black. Charlie looked at me like I was crazy.
What? I'm gonna need a moment here. I find when I'm at a loss for words, the theme to Taxi always mellows me right out. This is Angela's Theme is the name of this song, by the way. That's your reason for getting a job? Hire me because I'm Black? You know, a lot of people have been saying that happens, and that's what happens with, law school admissions or Harvard admissions or med school admissions or jobs here, jobs there. You're only bringing people in because of color of skin. And then we're told that's what, DEI, and we need all these things. And now you're saying that that's true. You didn't have any skills, but because of the color of your skin, that was enough. Oh, Jasmine Crockett, you are a treasure. I'm Tony Katz. She is an absolute peach. You can't get enough. You cannot get enough of her. Can't happen. I was trying to trying to download it and it wouldn't come into my system. I do not know why that is. It's the same style processing. Nope. Couldn't upload. That's too bad. That is too bad. Let me go back to your comments here. Good to see everybody. An absolute pleasure. You've got questions. We've got answers. And thank you, Jennifer. That from Flederman von Riest. That is the cornflower blue Hanoverian. So Hanoverian is the style. Cornflower blue is the color. The company is Flederman von Riest, R-I-E-S-T-E. Thrilled to be their brand ambassador, letting people know the word about this American assembled, Indiana assembled watch movements, whether they be the Miyota movement or a Seiko out of Japan, Swiss movement in the mechanical, and then assembled right here in Indiana in spectacular timepieces. A great color. I like color in my watch. I mean, there's a place for some of the classics, but I happen to like this stuff quite a bit. Some people like color in the band. Me, I like color in the face. You can do it any way you want with Flederman von Riest, R-I-E-S-T-E, vonriest.com. Use promo code CATS and get your discount. Do that immediately. Good to see you all. Yeah, I'm gonna step back on tariffs for just a little bit. We have more to get to on that subject because, of course, it's the subject. I mean, it is everything today. It isn't going to stop. But I'd love to hear your thoughts, where you are on the concept of tariffs. What you think is happening. There we go. Just taking a look at a couple things here. Somebody asking on Twitter, did I see what Ford did today? Yes, I did. I actually checked because I have a deal with a local Ford dealership. Employee pricing for everyone. Everyone gets employee pricing. I'm kind of taken by this idea, and I don't need a car, but so you want to work a theory with me? Did you hear about this? Sarah, if you're in the chat, if you can find that link, it just do a search on it. I'm going to share with you a theory on this. You tell me if I'm right or I'm wrong. What we are seeing from Ford with employee pricing is they will see pricing going up or costs going up because of tariffs, and they know there's going to be less demand because of tariffs, and therefore they want to unload as much as they can right now. That's my take. That is my take. I do not know where you are with this. Or there it is. Look at you, Sarah. There it is. A little road and track action. Brentwood Union Free Schools. I don't know what that is. Brenton Union Free Schools. So this is New York. And this is a great example of madness. That for those people who think that if you give an inch, it stops, you're about to learn. It never, ever stops. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Find it all over at TonyKatz.com. And do not forget, April 17th, Trump and American Reset in the 3 bourbons. We are going to take a look at these first 100 days like nobody else has looked at the first 100 days before. We're going to laugh our faces off. We're going to have bourbon. We're going to have cigars. I've got incredible food from Big Hoppa's Barbecue, one of the top barbecue places in America, according to Yelp. Oh, the cigars come in next week. And we are going to break this down. You're going to laugh. You're going to learn. You're going to fall in love. The whole thing. Tickets.tonykatz.com. Get them right now. Tickets.tonykatz.com. And my thanks to Laser Precision Marksmanship Club. Incredible group of people. Learn how to shoot the right way with video simulation. They will come to you, have events, bring the entire staff, bring the entire family. LaserPMC.com. And you can use promo code TonyKatz20 and get some great discounts. And Flederman Von Riest, your watch people assembled right in Indiana, where I live. Von Riest, R-I-E-S-T-E, vonriest.com. Great sponsors for the event. Tickets.tonykatz.com. You cannot give an inch to a woke mob. One of the things that we have seen when a mob breaks out, and we've seen now mobs break out everywhere, and I think this summer it's going to get much worse, is that we've seen areas that are dominated by the progressives. Well, let them go a little bit. Don't try and contain it. They'll lose steam. You just leave them be for now, and everything will be fine. If you allow the mob to go down this road of being a mob uncontested, the mob only gets stronger and angrier and more vicious and harder to control. That the data speaks for itself there. The mob has to be shut down immediately. And that is how maximum safety occurs. Now, the mob may not like it. The mob may find themselves face first in concrete. But you were involved in not protest, but menacing, destruction of property, looting, whatever the case may be, down in the concrete, you may end up. Once you've done those things, nobody has to worry about you. As an American citizen, due process. But the idea that you're resisting arrest, you're trying to evade arrest after you committed the act, well, that's your problem. And that a city will utilize techniques and tactics to engage a disbursement, protest being very different than riot. Well, that's going to happen. But it has to happen quickly, and it has to happen with a level of force. These are just facts. But what I said is that this is an example of if you give a leftist mob an inch, they're going to go for more, because there's never a moment when they're done. If we go back to this DEI conversation, remember, the objective of the DEI officer is to find what's wrong in order to ensure their job. So something always has to be wrong. By nature, it has to be wrong. There has to be some affront. There has to be some slight to prove the job and guarantee what we said on college campus, 6-figure incomes. DEI is a jobs program. We know that. Well, in Long Island, a school district is now facing a lawsuit. The lawsuit complains that the mascot is racially problematic. Okay, are they utilizing a Native American? Is that what's going on here? Is that the issue? No. They chose a Spartan. Somehow the Spartan is a symbol of white supremacy. The school used to have a mascot. The mascot was the Indians. But the Indians was too offensive. So now they picked the Spartans. And now the Spartans is too offensive. Do we understand it now? Did that help? Did we kind of like go the long way to explain something so easily understood? Pick something else. Go ahead, pick the Bulldogs, and you will find the PETA folk saying that it's really thinking of the Bulldog as dangerous and we shouldn't have that. Pretty soon, it's going to be the Brentwood Honeysuckles. And, well, I personally have an issue with that as a name for a team. They don't stop. You know, this is, I'm paraphrasing Michael Walsh, the screenwriter and the author. The political left never stops, never rests, never sleeps. But what you create is a group of people who always find that something is offensive. Which brings us back to the DEI conversation. How else can these people exist if they're not offended? Now you take it out of the DEI context and you place it into a different context, the one of building reputation capital. When you are offended and you post on social media, oh, I am offended. Well, that gets people to say you are so right. That's so wrong with them. I feel for you. I'm sorry you've been triggered. And then that person gets to send out a couple tweets about how brave they are and how they're fighting back against the system, man, and all this jazz. It's all make believe. But when your job is to be offended, you will be offended by everything because it's your job. If you're not offended, how could you be a good person? And they know they're all just engaged in make-believe. Let me give you an example. Over there at Columbia University, I think this is clean, producer Landa, but finger on the dump button just in case. See, they don't even know how to chant. It's all just a game. It's a group of students who didn't know how to chant on their own. So they needed somebody else to lead them in a chant. They seem to be chained together. One kid wearing a keffiyeh and a yarmulke. One of these things is not like the other. One of these things doesn't belong. You didn't know I could sing, did you? Full of surprises, kids. Also, I can tell you which one is the Jew and which one isn't. The one wearing the keffiyeh isn't the Jew. Hold on, wait. Oh, the Jewish kid was actually wearing the keffiyeh? Okay, I'll rephrase. One of these kids is rational, and one of these kids, if they spent 4 minutes in Gaza, would be dead or tortured. One of these things is not like the other. You follow it from there. You got it now. It's make-believe. They're not protesting anything. In this case, in Colombia, they're protesting that Mahmoud Khalil was detained by ICE. Lawful citizen, right? Lawful permanent resident, I should say, but was supportive of Hamas, lied about his relationship with the United Nations Relief Works Agency, which, of course, supports terrorists. That's what they did. And was involved in not just the protests, but the intimidation and harassment of Jewish students. Yeah, he's getting deported. What exactly are you protesting? You Columbia mouth breathers. You have to be insane to send your kid to Columbia. As a matter of fact, if you see Columbia on a resume, question it highly before you hire that person. They have to be outraged. You mean the guy was connected to supporting terrorists and you still want him freed? Well, if you don't understand we have a university problem, I can't help you. But more to the point, you must be outraged by all things at all times, even when there's nothing to be outraged by. We see this, for example, this happened in Pennsylvania just recently, where a black woman claims that a noose was left on her desk, and oh, how terrible, and oh, how awful. This is obscene. She made it herself. She made the whole thing up. She's the Jussie Smollett of Pennsylvania. What happens when you're so not oppressed that you have to invent your own oppression? Well, because you need that reputation capital, because you need to be upset against something. You need to be railing against something. That's how you prove you're good and you're decent. That's what these Columbia children are doing. And by the way, they're adults. And I think that you cut the chains or don't and throw them in jail and let them figure it out. Because they're engaged in protest? No, they're blocking gates right here. That's not being engaged in protest. That's preventing me from the ability to move from one place to another. I throw you in jail for that. You can't simply do that. And then we take it back to the school and its mascot. The Brentwood Union Free, or just be the Brentwood, with the Brentwood Honeysuckles. That's who they're going to be. The Honeysuckles. Nope, that still doesn't sound right. Well, I'm out of names. I guess we'll just call it Brentwood Football Team. Of course, until you realize that football is too violent of a sport and they shouldn't be allowed to play that either. They never stop. Now you know. I'm Tony Katz. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz. Good to be with you. Did I move the dang camera? Because I haven't. I was going to put my side banner up, and I was like, nah, something's not right. Something's not right. See? Is that right? Maybe it is. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I've got it too high. Is that? See, but I seem like every time. Every time. It's driving me nuts. Let me try this. Let me try that. You look at that. And I'll try this. Yeah, I don't think I did anything. I don't think I did a single thing there. I know it's weird. It's I don't know what that is. I don't care anymore. I got to move on from the thing. A fair amount of comments during the salsa music. Am I actually salsa dancing or hula hooping? No, I am not. I'm sorry to um, break the dream for you. I'm working. I am not juggling either. I am working and working very, very hard. Thank you. By the way, absolutely okay to be listening in to Dana at this time as well. We love her. She's continuing to crush. Godspeed. Tell her I said hello. Or I could text her. Either way. I don't know. I think people get all kind of weirded out by that, like other hosts and other shows. I never understood that. Big country, lots of room, different things for different people. Switch back and forth. I am way, way cool with it. So let me tell you about margaritas. I am pro margarita, which is pretty weird because nothing about me would make that make sense. Not during the show. You know, even Eat, Drink, Smoke, the Cigar and Bourbon show, it's only sipping. Like I've had a bourbon with the show before, but like I can't do both. Cigar and show I can do. Bourbon and show has never really worked for me. Never. That said, margarita does sound terrific. That it does. All right, let us get back to the radio show, coming back right about now.
I want to eliminate every single voter registration law. All of them. All of them in every state are bad, right?
I'm sorry, what did he just say? Did he just say we should get rid of voter registration laws?
I want to eliminate every single voter registration law. All of them. All of them in every state are bad, right? That's different from voter eligibility. If you're eligible to vote, you should just be able to rock up to the polls and vote. So we could just get rid of all of them. We could just get rid of all of them. And the people will say like, oh, well, we can't do that because of voter fraud, right? Well, first of all, and I know this is going to be hard for some listeners who spend a lot of time listening to Republican lies, but voter fraud does not exist.
I loved how you broke that down in the book. Expound, please.
Right.
Do you love how he broke that down in the book, Charlemagne? That voter fraud doesn't exist? Good for you, Charlemagne. Charlemagne's a radio host in New York, The Breakfast Club, and he gets to be a sometime host over there at The Daily Show. And I think the last thing he did on The Daily Show was agree with Jasmine Crockett that it's fun to make fun of Greg Abbott for being in a wheelchair, the governor of Texas. Some guy. Tony Katz today, good to be with you. There is no voter fraud. Okay. Except people have gone to jail for it. So there is some voter fraud. If you want to argue that voter fraud is not prevalent daily, hourly, you can make that argument. If you want to argue that somebody going to the polls and claiming to be somebody else is a very, very, very rare occurrence, you would be accurate. That doesn't happen very often. But if you were to allow just willy-nilly mail-in voting, if you had no voter registration, if you simply said, go on, well, how would you keep track of anything? For what purpose is someone opposed to voter registration? This is a new one. The person speaking to Charlemagne is Eddie Mistal, who you've often seen on MSNBC, or at least you've seen clips and then people mocking. Wisconsin just put voter ID laws into their constitution. They were already on the books, but they went through a process over 2 years to then get to a ballot initiative to see if they would be enshrined in the Constitution, and it is now. Voter ID exists to ensure the least amount of voter fraud possible. Not wanting voter ID, being opposed to voter ID, is to say you are okay with the opportunity for fraud. The fraud is not as prevalent as people want to say, but certainly does exist, and one is too many. If you are accepting any level of fraud, my gosh, what kind of person that is. But to say that you shouldn't even register, to say that anybody can say they can vote and they don't have to then prove who they are because, of course, no voter ID, you're opening up every opportunity for fraud. As a matter of fact, you want it. What else could it possibly be? But there is no voter fraud. That's just not true. As a statement, it's not factual. This is Tony Katz today. Very unimpressed. They do a lot of celebrating of Charlemagne the God, and a lot of talking about him and sharing his stuff and giving him interviews and all this. And I'm trying to determine where is the mind to play, because he wants to say that Kamala Harris didn't do a good job of running and Joe Biden was never up for it. Great. You can make fun of a guy for being in a wheelchair. Weird. If you want to say that voter fraud doesn't exist, that's not true. People have gone to jail for it. So the question before us is, what do we want in a voting system? Shouldn't that be the argument? Just going along to go along. I guess they'd say the same thing of me, though, right? Because I would agree with this one or I would agree with that one. Oh, he's just... And then everybody, reverts back and heads back to their sides, and that's it. I'm not going to change his mind. I'm aware of this, but that is simply that is simply a gross case analysis he's trying to make here. That there is no voter fraud, so you don't need voter registration. If he wants to tell me that there are American citizens who have been kept from registering to vote, well, that would be a thing. I wonder if he even gets into that.
Hey, voter fraud just doesn't exist. It's not a real thing. We shouldn't make laws based on protecting us from things that don't exist, right? Republicans keep saying we need voter ID. The voter ID is the thing that secures our election, that protects us from voter fraud. And I call their bluff. I'm like, all right, you want voter ID? Fine. Let's make a deal. Remember how this country used to actually make deals in order to move forward? Mm-hmm. Let's make a deal. I'll give you your voter ID. It's got to be national. It's got to be free, because if it's not free, it violates the 24th Amendment's prohibition on poll taxes. But you give...
Absolutely, the ID has to be free. I concur. I'm in so far.
A free national... I'll give you a free national voter ID, and you give me automatic registration of every eligible voter that is also portable between either in the states or between the states. Portable means if I move, I don't have to re-register. Mm-hmm. My registration follows me. I don't have to follow my registration. You give me that deal, I will give you your ID card. Who says no? And I promise you, the people who say no are the Republicans, are the ones who claim that voter ID is necessary to secure our election, because their goal is not to secure elections, because again, voter fraud doesn't exist. Their goal is to restrict people from voting.
What an argument. I'll counter the argument. I don't know how technologically that works. So break it down for me. How technologically does it work that the registration follows you? Registration on a national database when elections are up to the states? How does that work? How does that work? State legislatures determine the elections. So how again does that? Why am I trying? We're going to take the quick break because we're in the radio break right now. Keep it here. What was that, Landon? Okay. Landon's back. So now, everything's going to be fine. Keep it right here. Much more to get to. Be back in a few. I had the mute button on again. So first, welcome back. Tony Katz. Good to be with you. I am smoking the Sobra Mesa right there from Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. And this right here, the Hanoverian in Cornflower Blue from Von Reist Watches, incredible watch company. Two brothers based in Indiana, watches assembled in Indiana. Thrilled to be working with them. Just a fascinating couple of guys who were like, we just want to do something wonky awesome. And so they are. You got to love that. You got to respect that in every way. Thank you, producer Landon. So we're coming back to the radio show. Go to vonreist.com, use promo code CATS, and get your discount on your Fletterman Von Reist watch. A lot to get to. I see your comments right here. And thank you all for telling me that there was no sound. Yes, I figured it out. I did figure it out. I'm like Fredo. I'm smart. I can handle things. Men are not women and women are not men. Gosh, that we have to keep having this conversation. But more and more people are coming around to the recognition that what we're seeing in society is just horrific and ugly and obscene and altogether gross. Gross stuff. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. 833 got Tony. 833-468-8669. 833 got Tony. That's how you get to be a part of the program. I share with you this story of a fencer. In order to share the story of the fencer, I need to share this story about Abby Phillip. Abby Phillip is the host there on CNN. And Abby Phillip is the one who, every time Scott Jennings starts to go on a tear, she's interrupting him because she knows he's smarter than all the other guests, and it's simply unfair to all the other guests that somehow they should have to deal with the fact that he is going to just tear them apart. It's just simply unfair. Well, she's not wrong about that because he does it very, very well. Abby Phillip is talking about the Wisconsin election, the special election, the Supreme Court election, where the Democrat took the seat by 10 points. People like like Tim Walz want you to know that that is massive. That's a shellacking. It's just the biggest defeat possible. Tim Walz is a special kind of tool. But Abby Phillip has on as one of her guests Scott Walker. People forget Scott Walker. Scott Walker was the governor of Wisconsin. Act 10, ending collective bargaining for public unions. I was part of those events. I spoke on the Capitol steps in Wisconsin. Sarah Palin was the headliner, and the guy after me was Andrew Breitbart. I mean, Tony's done some stuff. There's been a good time had. There's been a fascinating time had. And honestly, that might have been a different lifetime ago at this stage of the game. Well, Abby Phillip is talking about Elon Musk. And of course, is Elon Musk going to be leaving the administration? Well, I think he said as much in his Fox News interview with Brett Baer, and no one seemed to talk about that. And they're like, oh my gosh, we told you he'd be leaving. Trump's had enough of him. There's only so many days you can be part of the administration based on certain rules without being an official part, without whether do you need Senate confirmation or not. There are all these things. But I don't expect the left to get that right. I would expect Abby Phillip not to be so brazen about saying something that isn't true, and then when caught doing it, she keeps saying it. Scott Walker was an excellent governor, and Scott Walker ran a very doomed campaign for president. Scott Walker was the precursor to what we see out of Rubio and a host of others, a precursor to a Scott Jennings, good on their feet, able to deal with the incoming, smart enough to be able to present it properly. Check this out right here.
He came to the state, he talked about cutting Medicaid, Social Security through DOGE, bringing those issues up.
Actually, he never talked. He explicitly said in Green Bay that he would not cut Social Security.
Well,
that's exactly what he said.
Talked at his rallies.
No, other people said about that, but I was there. I watched him.
Okay.
He did not say he was going to cut Medicaid.
Other people at his rallies who work for DOGE, who work for Elon Musk's organization, talked about those issues.
No, I was at the rally. Not a one of them said that. That's what protesters said, but nobody there actually said that.
Do you think that there are risks here?
There are. People believe the lies that people are saying about that.
That's unbelievable. First, you said it was Elon Musk. Then you said it was at his rallies. Then you said it was Doge people. In every turn, Scott Walker's telling you no, and you keep going. Honestly, this is joyous. I could watch this all day. All right, maybe twice. After that, I'd be like, who has lunch? But it's spectacular. It is absolutely spectacular. I bring this story up to share with you a story out of Georgia. In the state of Georgia, the Democrats staged a walkout. The walkout happens because in Georgia, the Democrats were infuriated that Republicans were going to pass legislation that would ban gender-affirming care for the state's prison population. Prisoners couldn't make the claim that they were a man when they're a woman, or when they're a woman when they're a man. They weren't going to have that. They weren't going to provide hormones for that. They weren't going to provide therapies for that. They weren't going to provide surgeries for that. We're not paying for that nonsense, said the state of Georgia. And the Democrats, on an 80-20 issue, walked out. America has stated quite clearly that they understand men are not women and women are not men. They are absolutely opposed to this idea of gender affirming care on children, because it's not gender affirming care. It is mutilation. There is no gender affirming care. It's a lie. It's a lie. And they've been caught in that lie, and they refuse to change the name. And they have been caught mutilating children, and they refuse to change. They want you to pay for prisoners to engage this nonsense. And you, the people, have said no. And the political left says, how dare you? In this situation, the political left is Abby Phillip. Time and again, you have been told we don't want this. It's what they're referring to as an 80-20 issue. 80% of the country thinks that this is fakakta nuts. And yet you keep doing it. This brings us to the story of a woman by the name of Stephanie Turner. I don't know Stephanie Turner. I have never met Stephanie Turner. Stephanie Turner is a fencer. She fences, sword fighting. And Stephanie Turner realized that one of her opponents would be a man. USA Fencing refuses to deal with the fact that men are not women and women are not men. And they let men claim to be women and engage in women's sports. Stephanie Turner took off her mask and got on her knee. That was her way of saying, I'm done here. I will not participate. When the referee, if you will, asked her what's going on, she was very, very clear. She said, I simply will not do this. I looked at the ref and I said, quote, I'm sorry, I cannot do this. I am a woman and this is a man and this is a women's tournament and I will not fence this individual. They threw her out. There's something in fencing, I didn't know this, called a black card. It's the most severe penalty. It leads to expulsion from the tournament. It's unsportsmanlike behavior. True story. And then they escorted her out of the venue. That's what they did. Enter Martina Navratilova. Martina is infuriated, fuming that this fencer was kicked out for refusing to take on this male athlete. And the video showed clearly the match is about to begin. I guess you call it a match. And she takes off her helmet and she takes a knee. And she's like, I won't do this. I won't be a part of this. And the guy that she's supposed to go up against, who claims to be a woman, is like, hey, what's wrong? And Stephanie Turner's like, hey, I'm not going to do this. You're a man. I'm not going to have any part of this. Martina, the former tennis player, is very upset. This is what happens when female athletes protest. Anyone here still think this is fair? I am fuming. And shame on USA Fencing. Shame on you for doing this. How dare you throw women under the gender bull blank bus? I've heard Martina say things like, why I'm so mad at Democrats for allowing Republicans to have control of this issue. And I have always thought that is such a gross statement from Martina Navratilova. Why in the world do you think that this is a Republican issue? It's not. This is an issue of the rational versus the irrational, the right versus the wrong, the Yetzer Tov versus the Yetzer Hara. This is a conversation of good versus evil. Republican versus Democrat, it's much bigger than that. But once we realize it's a conversation of right versus wrong and good versus evil, you clearly understand, in the same way you see Democrats walking out instead of recognizing that Georgians do not, the people of Georgia, Georgians, they don't want to pay for someone's transgender surgery if they're in prison. Just like you see every time Abby Phillip lies, it gets confronted and she doesn't stop lying. These people never stop. The bad people, the evil people, the ideological people, they're never going to stop. The only way to stop is to beat them. So why in the world would you say, I can't believe Democrats allowed Republicans to have this subject? You should be cheering Republicans for recognizing that men are not women and women are not men, and moving heaven and earth to protect women in sports and in all other spaces. The real question is, why are you lamenting what the Democrats are doing as opposed to shaming them, as opposed to walking away from them? This is who they are. This woman is left on the field of battle without any levels of protection from USA Fencing or anybody else. And she will be told that somehow she is the bigot for standing up for herself. You, Martina Navratilova, should be having lunch with Donald Trump, coming on this show, recognizing that maybe the Republicans aren't so bad. I know what you're going to say, but abortion, maybe it's time to accept the fact that abortion just isn't that important. It's not the biggest subject. There are states where you can have one and states where they limit the time frame. But that's it. The Roe v. Wade conversation is over. And you still want to make it the front and center subject? Well, I can't vote for the Republicans. Abortion. Which side is really in favor of women? You know the answer, Martina. Say it. Or do you want to be Abby Phillip and just keep lying to yourself and hope that the other side will take it? But Scott Walker wasn't going to take it. And the people of Georgia aren't going to take it. Stephanie Turner took a knee in a way far more profound than Colin Kaepernick ever did to say she wasn't going to take it. And Colin Kaepernick risked nothing. This girl just risked the rest of her career. And by the way, your career as a female fencer, I have to assume it's shorter and pays less than your career as a quarterback. Which side do you want to be on, Martina? Maybe you got to ask yourself what really matters. How do you really fight, and how do you really create the better society, which is the more honest society, which recognizes that men are not women, women are not men, and those who want men to erase women and those who want to mutilate children to erase them either way are the ones who are wrong and should always lose. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. I don't know if she'll listen to me. I have no clue. All you can do is try. Put things together, see if they make sense for people. It's the best you can do. Let me go to your questions here. Hold on a second. Had the wrong chat. Mark, how many chat rooms are you in? How many chats can one do at one time? One man, one chat. That's it. That's all I can do. One man, one chat. I am scheduled on Newsmax today at 3:40 p.m. We will see what we will see. And found some good deals on some cigars. I will get those coming up in a little bit. Let's see what else we've got going on here. As we put together what's next, let me move this and move this. Oh, man, what I wouldn't give for just a little more Jasmine Crockett audio. She is a gift. She is a total gift. Sorry, guys. I have the story. And it's disgusting. I'm sorry. Yes. I have the next story, and it is gross. It is wholly terrible. Sometimes it has to happen like that. Let's see if I can. Let's see if I can upload it this time. I hear you. That one happened. Good. Let me see. Is this working?
I hate old white men. I hate old white men. I hate old white men.
Yeah, it's working. It's working fine. Oh, we've got some good stuff. World-class stuff right there. 30 seconds heard for sure. By the way, we're all in agreement that this is an 80-20 thing. The people who still want to push the idea of gender affirming care, these are monstrous people who really do want to hurt children. And when you say to me, well, medical professionals, allow me to change the argument. The argument, and I will get into this coming up. The argument is the training. The issue is the training. That's the problem with the people of the quote unquote expert class. They think their training satisfies all things. It doesn't. Let's get back to the show. There are good stories. There are bad stories. There are ugly stories. There are horrific stories. And usually you see these stories in the headlines. Bad headlines, ugly headlines, and then every now and then.
Your car's seatbelt, safety miracle or decapitation nightmare?
What is the connection between rain and farming? The answer may surprise you.
Heroin, sex, machine guns, flamethrowers, murder. There's no story here. We've just found that ratings go up when we say those words.
It's time for the worst headline of the day.
Breaking news. North Dakota mayor resigns after texting lunch break masturbation video to city attorney. I should have given a trigger warning, shouldn't I? I mean, that's just not something you drop on somebody as they're driving 65 miles an hour down an interstate. No. You give them a little something, a little warning, cats, a little, hey, I'm your friend. You don't just do that. I'd like to apologize. Maybe that was wrong of me. Tony Katz today. What are you doing? Well, you are wanting to know about this story. I'm here to help. The mayor of Minot. It's a good-sized city in North Dakota. He resigned. He takes responsibility for the mistake. I tried to immediately correct it and was unable. The decision I made falls in line with all of my work on behalf of the city of Minot. I put my heart and soul into this community. Not just your heart and soul. The city attorney oh gosh, I should not have done this story. The city attorney told investigators she had spoken to the mayor about a police officer's suicide just minutes before she received a video of the mayor tubining. That's a reference to Jeffrey Toobin, CNN. The mayor said about that video. I recorded the sexy video for my girlfriend. My sex, like Stewie having a sexy party, and said, "Hey, could you just delete that and keep the incident between us?" He didn't mean to send it to her. City attorney and his girlfriend, they both start with the letter C, and so it was a mistake. Don't send videos. I'm Tony Katz. Don't send videos. So the city, by the way, gets a 15-day period in which the residents can petition to hold a special election. And if there's no petition, the Minot City Council will appoint a mayor from within. I don't get it. It's me, right? I don't understand. I have never, ever, of all the things you're going to find about me, I have never made a video. I don't know if that means I've ever been videoed. I don't know. But I have never hit record and then begun. If the only thing my kids remember is don't take nude pictures, don't be in nude pictures, don't send nude pictures. Same thing's true with video. Then I am Father of the Year. That is my hope. That they will just learn that, and everything will be all right. By the way, the part that most bothers me, seemingly he did this at work. And honestly, that's not why I elect a mayor. Now, there's a joke in there somewhere, right? I can't bring myself to do it even on the live stream. We're not even on the radio show, and I just can't bring myself to do it. Can't tell the joke. I am starting to think, and Sarah, who has known me for a long time, who runs all our digital, Sarah, I'm starting to think I'm a prude, and I'm not. But I don't do any of that. I don't do any of that stuff. I don't even talk about that stuff. I'm so not into it. It goes to the April Gregory philosophy, who is a political advisor here in the central Indiana area, consultant. I am not a bro. And I'm starting to think that this is really becoming a thing in my life. I am not a bro. I do not know how to bro out at all. Now, I don't know if broing out means like this, because then I am not interested. But I'm not the beer at the game guy or anything like that. That is very true about me. That is very true. I don't know if this fits in. Where like I've never sent a video, I've never made a video. I think the whole thing is ridiculous. I maybe it's just me. Producer Landon, you've sent videos of yourself, right? You were just saying that the other day, how many videos you're sending yourself every day, right? Just to random phone numbers and hoping somebody will respond. I've never done the phone number thing where you text somebody with a phone number almost like yours out of the blue. No, I've never done that. Although I do follow other people on Facebook named Tony Katz because that just amazes me that somebody else has the name Tony Katz. And there's one guy who's like he's a certain kind of lawyer, and somebody else does crypto. And it's like their name, like in my Google alerts, it'll come up and be like, oh, look, they're doing something. I always feel so bad for them because my name is everywhere and they got to deal with my stuff. I feel awful for them. But one of us had to be in charge and I chose me. I'm wearing pants.
Well, first of all, Marky, I just want to address that yesterday was a great day for our country. And President Trump delivered on a campaign promise that he made to the 80 million American voters who elected him to this highest office, a promise that many presidents before him for decades refused to deliver upon. This is a national emergency. We have a $1.2 trillion trade deficit. We've had 90,000 factories closed across our heartland. We've had 5 million manufacturing jobs go overseas since 1997. And President Trump is finally doing something about it by implementing these reciprocal tariffs. It's the golden rule for the golden age of America. As for prices and what the American public can expect, they can expect price stability. They can expect to buy American. It's the patriotic thing to do. And most importantly, they can expect their wages to go up. We know that in President Trump's first term, wages went up by $6,500 per person. And that's because of the whole of government economic approach that this administration is taking, effectively implementing tariffs while also...
This won't be painful at all for American people and consumers, Caroline?
It's going to be, there's not going to be any pain for American-owned companies and American workers because their jobs are going to come back home. And again, as for prices, President Trump is working on tax cuts to put more money back into the pockets of Americans. He is working on massive deregulatory effort, which we know has already saved American taxpayers millions of dollars in just 2 months. And we're also working on driving down the cost of energy with a Trump energy boom, just like we saw in his...
Caroline Levitt there answering the questions on News Nation. There's not going to be any pain. And notice how she shifted the answer from the citizen to businesses here in the U.S. I feel for her in that she's got a job to do as White House press secretary. Of course there's going to be pain. Do I want to see where the markets are at right now? Do I want to know where they're at? No, I still don't. No part of me wants to know this. Again, I will remind people that the tariffs that Trump implemented yesterday, or at least announced yesterday, that I think get implemented in a week. So who knows what deals we made in the interim. They are not being taken well. And yes, tariffs are taxes. We pay them. We do. And the idea that we will not be the ones who feel this is it's just not true. It's not honest. It isn't. Trump's objective is clear. Bring the manufacturing in every way to the United States, maybe even in ways we don't necessarily want. Bring down trade deficits because that's other nations taking advantage of us. Others would disagree that the trade deficit is inconsequential Because let's say they get more of our money because we're buying more of their goods. They invest that money. Where do they invest it? Here. That's the argument. That as a greater conversation of economic security and stability, we're on the better end of the stick. And we should continue to be on the better end of the stick. Yeah, that's not a great answer from Caroline Levitt. It's just not. I look, people are going to disagree with me. That's fine. It's like Scott Bessent saying that prices don't have to go up.
Republican unity.
Yeah, well, on that front, and we'll see what Republicans do and how that looks. Obviously, that's the president's ambitious agenda. But on, the argument of short-term pain, long-term gain, which it seems what you're arguing about the long-term, what this will look like, prices will go up for Americans in the short term, right?
They could. They don't have to.
And that's if they don't have to, you're arguing if businesses do not pass those on to those consumers.
Well, and President Trump's first administration, prices didn't go up, so the businesses don't have to pass them on, or the producers in the other countries can eat the tariffs, and traditionally the dollar adjusts. So it's a very complicated calculus to see where we end up.
Yeah, and of course.
And that calculus also involves targeted tariffs versus blanket tariffs versus full nation tariffs. And now in not being engaged in trade deals, but rather trying to change how trade deficits work. So that's a fundamental difference, Secretary Bessent. The conversation I would love to have. The United States has banned government personnel in China from romantic or sexual relations with Chinese citizens. Associated Press with the story. People with direct knowledge of the matter telling the AP about the policy put into effect by the U.S. Ambassador Nicholas Burns in January, shortly before he left China. I guess this was in the Biden days. Is that it? The new rule prohibiting U.S. personnel from romantic and sexual relations with Chinese citizens working as guards and other support staff at the U.S. Embassy and 5 consulates in China. This is known as the Swalwell Rule. No? Too soon? Yeah? Maybe? Eric Swalwell, you had sex with a Chinese spy. Hold on, wait. No, he didn't. I put forth to you that Eric Swalwell, the congressman from California, never had sex with Fang Fang. That was her name. He simply didn't have it in him. There's a joke. I know where the joke is. I'm not doing it. It's the second time today. I refuse to sink to your level. Maybe I really am a prude. Maybe that is really it. Maybe that's it. It could be that I'm learning a lot about myself on this show. I was on Newsmax the other day, yesterday, and this story came up. This story out of Colorado about a bill about misgendering and dead naming.
But over to Colorado, they put forth a bill, Tony. It would classify misgendering and dead naming as forms of child abuse and direct it to courts to make child custody decisions beyond the. So, let's sit back. You're telling me that a child who can't get a tattoo without parental consent, but they can change their gender, and if I'm their parent, it's child abuse for me not consenting to whatever freak show gender you decide to be when you're 9?
Let's relate this to something that happened in Biden's term, where if you were a parent attending a school board meeting, you were a domestic terrorist. The purpose, the goal, the objective is to be able to cleave the parents away from the child and allow the state, the Democratic Party, to be in charge of raising the child. You can't have a say in your kid's education because you weren't properly trained. Our argument, the argument of the rational, is that the training is indeed the problem if we see schools indoctrinating as opposed to educating. In this case, the Democratic Party that has always picked loser arguments, and that's why they lost the election in 2024. That's why they lost the special elections in Florida. They can't connect with where people are. Parents are in charge of their kids.
Yeah, great.
Parents are in charge of their kids. I didn't know that that was such a hard thing to understand. But I have been floating with this theory. I've had this theory floating around in my head. It has come to my attention that there are how people spend their time is fascinating. And I know that there are people who spend their time, for example, studying religion and their religion. I have had, you know, that I'm Jewish, and I don't certainly shy away from it. I am absolutely a Zionist. I don't shy away from it. But there's no doubt that I have massive problems. I do. And they are in how the religion has become political. And certainly when you see that in synagogues, and my own connection to it, which was it used to be as a kid, as a young man, very strong, and then waned because of the political and how the politics seeped in to synagogues, and then started coming back and has waned again. And I don't have an answer for it. Yet I find myself with more Shabbat dinners than ever before, and certainly a celebration of the holidays, getting ready for Passover. I have a 15-pound brisket that I'll be smoking for Passover, and a brisket that I'm going to be doing in the traditional style. I have a lamb roast. Oh, Daddy's going to cook some food. And I find these holidays important, and they matter. I mean, the whole idea of Passover, we were once slaves to a pharaoh in Egypt, but with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, our Lord, our God, took us out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. It is an incredible story, a story of freedom. Count me in. Count me in. But not a studier in that way. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why that is. And certainly it wouldn't hurt me to study more. But what I do find myself doing is thinking. And not to say that others don't, but I often wonder. I don't know if people go over their work the way I do. I don't know if people go over situations the way I do. I don't know. It could be that I'm obsessive in that way. It could be I'm just like everybody else, really and truly, nothing special whatsoever. But I am not enamored. It's the wrong word. I am infatuated. Wrong word. I find myself working on theories, trying to make an understanding of what it is that we're all talking about in a way that could work, that is digestible, that explains the situation. Sometimes in politics, I've heard it referred to as 10 words. And one of these things has been about the expert class and how the experts, you have to listen to them about this, and you have to listen to them about that, and you have to agree with what they say. And we certainly saw this on full display regarding COVID, and the expert said this and the expert said that. Yes, but my doctor wants to talk to me about ivermectin. You can't take ivermectin. You can't, and horses, and you can't take hydroxychloroquine, and you can't question the science. And Anthony Fauci is the science. And this thing about experts has really gotten to me. And then it was about education. And the teachers and the teachers union saying parents can't decide. They're not trained in this. Something about that stuck in the back of my head. And I don't know if I'm the first person to say it, but I said it here. The training is the issue. How can one trust the experts when they are trained not to do the job, but to do the indoctrination, to do the thing that is counter to the job, to do the thing that most damages? The issue is the training. The expert class claims they're an expert because they have been trained to be the expert. And the argument of the rational is that the training is the problem. I think as a political statement or philosophy, I think that's right. I'd love to know what you think of it. Let me know on Twitter at Tony Katz or Tony at TonyKatz.com. Keep it right here. This is Tony Katz Today. A very smart thing to do. Producer Landon, I was just going over market numbers, and I was just reading it out loud. I was saying that the Dow is down 3%, and CNBC was reporting that the Russell 2000, that market has now entered bear territory. So it's a bear market. And so the Russ is down 5.68%, the Nasdaq's down 5%, and the Dow is down 3%. And so producer Landon asked the question that matters. When you say it's down 3%, what do I take from that? And it's a very important point that percentages, when utilized by government officials or others quoting statistics, mean nothing if you don't know the numbers. Because 3% might be like, all right, that's no big deal. 3% of something else could mean quite a bit. You got to know what the numbers are. So the NASDAQ right now is down 899, and the NASDAQ is down 13. The NASDAQ was down 15. I don't know. I do not know. What I think is interesting, this is going to be an interesting time to buy a house. Producer Sarah. The 10-year Treasury was down to 4.014. It's now at 4.042. So the 10-year Treasury is what you base 30-year fixed mortgage on. In the spread, according to Lance Lambert, was 268 basis points. So now you're at 6.6, which means you probably get things at 6.5 or maybe a little bit lower. And this is the house selling season. School year is coming to an end. People put their houses on the market now because they're going to move their families in between school years so they can get the kids ready for school. This is the season. So if you see the 10-year treasury pop under 4, you're going to see a lot of people jump for it. If you see things around 6, now I've always argued you really need to be under 5 to see real estate come back in a solid way. But if someone could get a rate for 6.25 as opposed to 7%, you want to do the math on what that is on a payment on a 4-bedroom, 3-bath place? It's real money. So that's the number to keep an eye on. Where does the 10-year go, which means where's the 30-year fix go? That's the thing to focus on right there. We're coming back to the show. And if the tariffs aren't bad enough, now there's a recall going on chocolate. That's enough of that. Starting to get the shakes. Tony's Chocolonely. Chocolonely? It's Tony's Chocolate. And I'm always like, man, they should be a sponsor. They're being recalled for possibly containing small stones.
Okay, people, move along. There's nothing to see here.
How does that happen? Tony Katz today. It happens because the product was not filtered during third-party almond harvesting and the almond processing. I will tell you, my oldest refuses to eat almonds because almonds have trace amounts of cyanide in it, and he's convinced no, almonds will kill you. Totally right. Hands of God, so true. You think your kids are weird. Keep it here. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz today. Oh, good Lord. So I recorded my conversation with Dr. Matt Will, and it went so long, it's 2 parts. So it will be there on the radio show, and you will be able to get it on the podcast as well. Just search for Tony Katz today. Wherever it is you get your podcasts, search for Tony Katz today. And I'm asking you, give it a download and give it a subscribe. We'd greatly appreciate it. Tomorrow, we've got the Friday audio dump. I'm going to fix this camera angle a little bit. I am. Because, see, no. It needs to be up. And then I got to show off the watch. Flederman Von Riest. Look at that beauty. Look at it. You should. You should. Go to vonriest.com, RIESTE, and get yours. So many designs. I think they're bringing out the chronograph, which is spectacular. I haven't placed the order yet, but I have one, and I think I'm going to be getting another 3. Yeah. And then get ready because we're going to be doing some design, which I cannot wait for. Von Riest, RIESTE. Go to vonriest.com. Use promo code KATZ, KATZ, and get your discount. You should do that and do that right away. So according to Sarah, it's too high. It needs to be pointed more towards that side. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Fine. I can't raise my chair, Pete, who just called me short. Can't do that. See, when I'm here, like when I'm doing this, like that's okay. Like that's enough. Like that, you know what? You don't need to know. You don't need to be bothered by any of this. I appreciate you. But hold on, let me get to this right here. It's from Carol. I myself am willing to pay more for USA made products. I could do with much less stuff. What? Stuff. Better quality of what I do get. My fellow Americans having jobs. How much stuff does people need? Start asking oneself, can I live without this? Most people's answer will be yes. Okay. So allow me to maybe turn this argument just a little bit, just another way to think about it. You're saying that the government should dictate a level of pricing and people should accept it because they have too much already and they should be economically moved to reduce their spending. That's what you're saying. And that becomes a problem because I would make an assumption, Carol, and I don't know you, and I'm really glad you're here. I can't thank you enough for the comment. That isn't what we want. If you want to discuss bringing more business to the U.S., creating more opportunity in the U.S., that is okay. That is fine. And certainly, if you want to discuss other nations that have put unnecessary tariffs on U.S. products, limiting their marketability in those countries, I think that's fine too. So do it in a targeted way. What we have here is full-on blanket. What we have here is disruptive. That's the problem. What if we looked at this and said, this is just far too much? And if you had done it like you had done it in the first term, right? You would go directly at things as opposed to this broad brush. And also there's this very interesting idea that if you take a look at the data and how they came to this decision, how Trump and his team came to this decision, these numbers, what they were looking at was not tariffs placed on U.S. goods, but rather they were looking at trade deficits. And he is utilizing tariffs to try and reduce trade deficits. That creates numbers that are out of line, that make people say, well, this is going to suck. Now, the one thing that has to be asked is, let's say that I'm right in that these numbers are ridiculous and absolutely it's going to make prices higher. There is a counter to my argument, which is what happens when countries start reducing their tariffs. So it has to be a combination, right, of certain countries and certain reductions that would then signal a victory. What countries would have to reduce tariffs by what percentage to then have Donald Trump say, we got the better deal, we did it, all right, tariffs off? I don't have that answer. Can you get Japan to move? I don't know where they move. And that's an interesting conversation I had with Dr. Matt Will, which you can get on the podcast. Just search for Tony Katz today. Subscribe, download, do all the things. India, I'm not sure where they can move. But the European Union seems pretty intent that they don't want to move at all. Remember, the UK is not a part of this conversation because of Brexit. They're not interested. The European Union is interested in the fight. which is weird. China right now is a 54% tariff. They charge a 67%, according to Forbes, on U.S. goods. So you have a 34%. That was through the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. And the 34 will be in addition to tariffs that China already faces, bringing that tariff rate to 54%, according to Forbes. China's going to be like, we don't care. We don't sell you enough stuff. We've got a worldwide market. We don't need enough. We will find other buyers. Thanks. And that's what other nations are going to say. So now do you drive other nations into the arms of other nations because we've become an untenable place to do business? What countries do you need and what numbers do they have to reduce by? What is that formula? I don't know. And I put forth to you that others don't know. If you had said actual reciprocity, tariff to tariff, I don't think the markets would have reacted like this. And yes, I think there's a touch of hysteria. And also, it does prove something that we discussed yesterday. The markets did not have this baked in. They didn't think it was going to be this much. That's obvious. That's obvious and is clear that they didn't expect it to be this much. By the way, markets down like this for a lot of people. Buying opportunities all over the place. We understand. Check with your professional. I'm not going to give you any investing advice. That's not going to happen. I would love to know an answer to that question, because somewhere there's an answer that if such and such nation did this, such nation did this, such and such nation did this, that would be the vast majority of our trade, and therefore everything else we don't have to worry about. China's not going to give, or do they? Now, China's in a very odd spot because China has its own issues and its own production issues. COVID absolutely damaged them and has damaged them for years. Never mind their own policies, never mind their own internal politics and their coming stagflation, never mind population issues. When you have a one China policy and you don't have a nation that repopulates because communism has taken the joy and the desire for life out of everybody, you can't repopulate. You need more Chinese people to repopulate the population of China. It's not happening. And so the population eventually dies off and you have nobody to replace that population. And so there's a theory that in the next 100 years, that China will lose 800 million people. That means it'll have 500 million people, still more than the United States. But where does their productivity come from? Real issue with China. Massive issue. What happens if China says, okay, we'll lower our tariffs? First, anybody who trusts China is out of their mind. China lies. China manipulates the yuan. They work to manipulate the dollar. They work to invest in other countries and therefore try and overtake those countries through economic domination. It's a serious issue in African nations. It's a serious issue in South America. So you wouldn't believe them anyway. You just wouldn't. In Trump's first term, he was trying to create the deal on soybeans and other things. And farmers were like, listen, we're willing to accept some short-term pain to try and get a deal with the Chinese government. But we know it won't last, but it'll at least be something in the short term. I sat with farmers and we had this conversation. It very much stuck with me. But who has to move for Trump to say win? I'll go back to that once again. This is about getting the win. The White House team will say it's the jobs and the manufacturing and the this and the that, and we are going to do this. Okay, I get it. But there's another reality, which is, when do you declare victory? When does that happen? When do you declare victory? And we're going to assume that this White House isn't going to declare victory. All White Houses declare victory. That's what I'm waiting for. Somebody give me the answer to what nations? What nations? Carol, Less consumerism is less in the landfills, where most ends up. Then we're going to look at less taxing for property, less gas prices, less energy prices, less taxes overall will be where the money can be made up for the more expensive goods from tariffs. Now, there's an argument to tax cuts as a way to offset the tariffs for sure. At least it's a recognition that tariffs are taxes. Less consumerism is less in the landfills. Okay, fine. But understand that the more expensive TV means less people buying the new TV. I'm fine with the idea of something costing more from Made in America. As a matter of fact, I've argued more than once that stores, whether they be retail or online, should be required to say where the product comes from. If the product comes from China, they should have to put up a sign that says from China. If it comes from Vietnam, from Taiwan, from Taiwan. Made in the USA, a sign that says made in the USA. You should not have to search for that. That should be easily found. But that would be empowering the consumer to make choices. And then they can make their choice, as opposed to being forced to make a choice, as opposed to making the cost of every good more. We opposed this when Barack Obama said we need energy prices to necessarily skyrocket to make green energy look affordable or palatable by comparison. That's a false market. I am not there. I am not interested. Not me. But I will end where I started, which is I knew what I was voting for. And people who voted for Trump had to know what they were voting for. They had to know. And we are in it now. This is happening. Now, I think these tariffs don't go into effect until April 9th. So you could see some things happen in the next couple days, and then these things never actually get applied. Always possible. We already saw Israel say we're dropping off the tariffs, but they've got their relationship with the United States they have to keep for other things, like putting an end to the Ayatollah and the mullahs, and therefore putting an end to Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthi rebels. Things can change. He's got the list. Now let's see when the implementation takes place and whether everybody's implemented as said or were deals made. When I use the air quotes there, and now I want to see what the deals are and how those deals are helpful, but not surprised. Even if I don't like it, I'm not surprised. Trump's always been this guy. You knew it. He believes in protectionism. I'm not there. We're about to find out. Affordable? Fletterman Von Riest. Look at the watch. Look at it, I tell you. It's a beaut. Go to Von Riest, R-I-E-S-T-E, vonriest.com. Use promo code CATS to get your discount. And then join me April 17th, Kokomo, Indiana, Trump and American Reset in 3 bourbons. We're going to go over those first 100 days, including all of this. And what do we think? And how does it set up the rest of the term? And we're going to drink great bourbon, and we're going to smoke cigars, and we're going to have an absolutely fantastic, terrific, super special time. It's going to be tremendous. It's going to be a dream. Tickets.TonyKatz.com. Tickets.TonyKatz.com. Laser Precision Marksmanship Club, our sponsor for that, laserpmc.com. The whole video system for training and live action scenarios, utilizing these videos to learn how to be a better shooter, learn how to deal with situations where lives are on the line. Laserpmc.com and Von Riest. Use promo code CATZ, K-A-T-Z, and get your discounts on an assembled in America watch, which awesome. I appreciate you guys. Find everything I do at TonyKatz.com, and I will catch you tomorrow. Take care.